Welcome to the certificate course in Introduction to Accessibility and Accommodations for Inclusive Education in Schools and Colleges. This is a NSQF Level 2 course and it has been developed by CBR Network, Bengaluru in cooperation with AICTE. Why do we need accessibility and accommodations and what is the need for this course? If we understand the demography, over 1 billion people with disabilities live in this world, out of which 2.6 crores live in India alone as per the 2011 census, and around 72% of them live in rural areas. Accessibility and accommodations are essential service for students with special needs to pursue education and inclusion into mainstream development programs. It also enables and accelerates the educational, social, and economic inclusion of persons with disabilities. The adoption of AA is a dynamic process in which schools and colleges systematically plan a criterion-based needs assessment and plan accessibility and accommodations to meet the individual needs of existing students in their respective colleges or schools. It is also important to train the faculty in understanding and applying accessibility and accommodation needs. Let us understand the background behind the accommodations in schools. Equitable and inclusive education is a key vision in the National Education Policy 2020. The NEP 2020 recognizes that certain groups are grossly underrepresented in the existing educational system. To specifically address their educational needs, the NEP has clubbed gender identities, socio-economic identities, geographical identities, disabilities, socio-economic conditions to create a new social group called SEDGs. Ensuring accommodations in all schools and colleges as well as training of teachers in planning accommodations for a child with special needs is the prerequisite to achieve the goals stated in NEP 2020 on equitable and inclusive education. The course provides insights into accommodations in schools. It also gives differences between accommodations and modification as well as universal designs and modifications. Accommodation in schools, what they are and how do they work, what are the types of accommodations and the accommodations versus modifications. What are the policies and support available towards accessibility and accommodation? In terms of the legislative support, the RPWD Act was enacted in December 2016. It promotes and protects the rights and dignity of people with disabilities in various aspects of life, including educational, social, legal, economic, cultural, and political. It applies to government, non-government, and private organizations. In terms of the design support, the concept of accessibility and accommodation needs to be planned on the individual needs based on the equity and inclusion in schools and workplace. In schools and colleges, unless the accessibility and accommodations are designed to meet the individual needs, it is difficult for the user to get the benefit from the common facilities. Also, it has to be stated that the RPWD Act recognizes 21 types of disability conditions. Let us look at some of the reference examples for accessibility and accommodations. For example, in this slide, you would notice the accommodations available for visual impairment. So we talk about the limitations at workplaces, work sites, and access areas. And these suggest the various accommodations that are needed at various environment places. For example, the availability of aid assistant attendants, the braille labelers, and so on, and also the accommodations for teachers at schools and colleges. Let us look at the course objectives. What is the focus area? Understanding the uses of accessibility and accommodations for persons with disabilities, develop AA support services at colleges and schools level or for a cluster of schools or colleges, designing indigenous AA and document and disseminate for persons with disabilities relevant to local context. What are the objectives of this course? Use knowledge, skills, and application of AA technologies for students studying in schools and colleges, to build the capacity of schools, colleges to develop innovative AA technologies with universal design, plan and manage Sahayog AA resource centers at schools and colleges or for a cluster of schools and colleges based on the number of schools or students with special needs. The course structure is as follows. The first unit is Introduction to Magnitude, Prevalence, Policies and Legislations on Disability at Global and National Level of 15 hours. Second, the Introduction to Accessibility and Accommodations, that is assistive devices and assistive technology For persons with disabilities with diverse special needs, again for 15 hours. The third unit is underlying principles of appropriate technology and universal design for 15 hours. The fourth unit is planning and management of Sahyog resource support for 15 hours. The total duration is 60 hours. The eligibility criteria for this course is as follows. The student should have completed 18 years of age at the time of application. They should be teachers working in schools or colleges. They should have working knowledge of computers, which is a desirable, and they should have completed graduation and working in schools and colleges. The highlights of this course is that teachers can choose a flexible pace of learning to introduce accessibility and accommodations based on the needs of current students with disabilities. Also, there are two practicum associated with the course, each of 30 hours and providing 1 credit each. The total credits that are available in this course, including the theory, is 4. For more information on this course, you can contact the course coordinator, Dr. Indumati Rao of CBR Network. Her email ID is ideasianetwork2013 at gmail.com.